So Motorola has just released the new Moto G Power in the United States, starting at $200 for the 32GB model, which has 3GB of RAM, and for $50 more you get 64GB of storage with 4GB of RAM. It comes with Android 10, and you can also use a micro SD card up to 512GB. Now I'll leave a link in the description below with current pricing and more information in case you're interested, but at first glance it looks very similar to the Moto G Power that came out last year, at least on the front. But unfortunately they downgraded the screen to 720p resolution. It's still a pretty large screen though at 6.6 inches, and you still get a huge 5000 milliamp hour battery that they're advertising will last up to 3 days. Plus you get up to 15 watts fast charging, although you only get a 10 watt fast charger in the box, so it's not going to be quite as fast on the charging. You can also choose between 2 different colors, flash gray and polar silver. Another difference you'll probably notice from last year's model is they moved the fingerprint scanner from the back to the side now, where the power button doubles as the fingerprint scanner. And I've got to say, so far I like what they've done here. They made it a little bit larger where the power button is, so it's easier to scan your fingerprint, and it actually works really fast. There's also a lot of other functions you can do with the power button now as well. You'll notice they put the cameras in the middle on the back now, which I think does look better than last year's model. And they're now giving you a 48 megapixel main camera, 2 megapixel macro lens, which I don't know why everyone likes to put these on there, but I guess it is what it is. And then a 2 megapixel depth lens. You also get an 8 megapixel front facing camera, hole punch style, just like last year. Overall, I think they did a pretty good job, but I don't really need a macro lens, and I'd much rather have an ultra wide or telephoto added. But hey, as long as the main camera is decent, because that's what I'm gonna use most of the time anyways, then I guess I'm okay with it. Here's a few samples of photos and video, just to give you an idea of what to expect. Now I'm not quite sure why they got rid of the dual speakers from last year's model to only have a bottom firing speaker, which is usually worse. And in my testing, yeah, it's not that loud. Motorola, what are you doing? It seems they're giving you less features on this new model, but charging you the same amount as last year. Here's a quick sound test, just so you can hear what the speaker sounds like.
But hey, that might just be me. Now, even though these phones look almost identical, you're obviously gonna get slightly better specs on the N10 5G. I know what you're thinking. Which one is the N10 5G? They look pretty much the same. Well, it's the one with the glossy finish on the back. Weird thing is, the N100 has a nice matte finish, similar to my OnePlus 7 Pro. I think that actually looks better. Now, as far as performance goes on these devices, you're gonna get the Snapdragon 460 on the N100 and the Snapdragon 690 on the N10 5G. You also get 4 GB of RAM on the cheap.
As far as the 720p resolution on the screen, I guess that's not a deal breaker for a lot of people, but it confuses me on why they downgraded it from last year's model, but are still charging you the same amount of money. I think it looks fine when watching movies or YouTube videos, especially since it's nice and large with about the same bezels as last year's model, but you will notice text isn't quite as sharp as on a 1080p display. Overall colors and brightness seem pretty good on here though, and like I said, it looks really good when watching movies or YouTube videos, so I think most people are going to be happy with that. When talking about performance, they went from a Snapdragon 665 to 662, so you're going to get somewhat similar performance as last year's model. You still get the same great software from Motorola that I've always liked. Very close to stock Android, but they add in gestures or Moto actions, whatever you want to call them. It's just sort of like having stock Android plus a few other features. Overall, the software feels nice and snappy without too much lag. And for gaming, I tested PUBG Mobile, Call of Duty Mobile, and Asphalt 9 without any issues as well. Sure, graphics aren't going to load quite as fast or look as good as on a flagship device, but for $200, I think it does pretty good at gaming. And again, for a 720p display, this thing actually looks much better than I expected. So I haven't had this phone long enough to test out the battery life yet, but with up to 3 days battery life, higher resolution 48 megapixel main camera, really nice large 6.6 inch display, even though it's only 720p, and a pretty fast fingerprint scanner on the power button. Plus you're gonna get pretty snappy software. So yeah, I would say if you're looking for a $200 phone and you don't already have the Moto G Power from last year, which would probably be an upgrade to this model, then you definitely want to put this one on your list. Although if you're going to get this phone, I would definitely go with the larger 64GB version because you're going to get 4GB of RAM for a little bit more future proofing. So hopefully this video gave you a little bit closer look at the Moto G Power 2021 version. Now if you want something even cheaper, I've got one more Motorola phone to look at, which will probably be my next video within a couple days, so you'll definitely want to stick around for that. So if you've made it this far into the video, you may want to say thanks by subscribing, and don't forget to give a thumbs up if this video was helpful. This is Brian from Fishbee Productions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.